think clients come with, clients really, they come with a really romantic view of how they live and how they want to live, especially when it's a new property that they've just bought or a building. They have this romantic view, I'm going to live like this. I always entertain for 20 and therefore I always need X amount of dining chairs around the table.
Yes.
But actually, what does life look like on a really dull Tuesday morning in
Hello, and welcome to FCI London podcast, where we sit down with some of London's most influential luxury designers to explore the ideas and craftsmanships behind their exceptional interiors. My name is Imke du Toit, and I am your host today, and I'm delighted to be joined by Charlotte Säve, founder of Charlotte Säve Interiors, a London-based interior and architecture design studio delivering high-end residential and boutique commercial projects across the UK and internationally. Charlotte's works beautifully combines Scandinavian restraint with warmth and layered textures. With a strong focus on architectural clarity, proportion, and spatial flow, she creates interiors that feel calm, considered, and deeply connected to their context, balancing clean lines with tactile finishes and subtle detailing. Charlotte, welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So, Charlotte, we are just going to jump straight in. Let's talk a little bit about design philosophy and identity. Your work strikes a balance between Scandinavian restraint and warmth. In a market that loves bold statements, how do you defend subtlety as a confident design decision rather than just playing it safe?
Yes, it's less about neutrality and absence of color, and it's more about composition and intention. I think there's definitely a place for neutrals, but color can be neutral as well. So sometimes what I do is choose kind of simplicity and kind of operating and driving back. A beautifully muted olive or a terracotta in the right property can actually feel quite grounding. So really it's about understanding what the architecture of the property is, the light and the location as well. What will work for us here in London might not work in other properties. It's really about letting the property speak and dialing that back. So
absolutely allow the property to sort of speak for itself and work within those subtleties as well and bring that to those designs. So many designers taught timeless interiors, but in your experience, what discipline does timeless design demand and what does it force you to avoid?
I think it's about restraint and also really about long-term thinking. It really requires you to prioritize layout, proportion, comfort. It's less about what's trending and really about understanding how the home is going to stand the test of time for the family to grow. So it's less about traditional versus modern. It's all about creating a backdrop for your clients. So we can easily repaint a wall, etc. But actually a really beautifully well-made sofa or a really well-considered joinery or the right choice in flooring will look equally fresh in 10 years time.
I love what you said about, with the long-term thinking and also with the clients itself as well. What is timeless to them versus what's timeless to you as a designer and then how that all works and how you bring that all together. Absolutely agree with that. When dealing with architecturally strong properties as you do, do you ever feel that the building itself calls more of the shots than the client's vision?
I think often a client has chosen a property because they are aligned with the property's character.
Sure.
So I rarely see someone come to me and they've bought a incredibly contemporary home and then they want a really traditional English country house feel. I think it's, of course things can happen, but it's really those kind of conversations about that they happen already early on when we see the property. That said, the architecture of the property sets certain parameters. So especially when we're dealing with older homes, ceiling heights or original features, or if it's listed homes, we are into particular restrictions. So a client might have had kind of early thought process for a property when it's a new property or if they're redoing their home. I want to tear these walls down, etc. But actually with window placements or a listed building or just kind of general piping, etc. behind the walls, we just can't make that vision happen. So that's probably more when the client's vision might need to be adjusted. But I think I like to see it as a collaboration between what the the client had envisioned and what actually the building is. And the architect really sets the framework. But the client is what brings the lifestyle and the personality to the building. So, and my role really as a designer is really to make sure that those two are in conversation with each other rather than in conflict with each other.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's finding that harmony, that balance between the two. Because as you said as well, I mean, certain architectural structures isn't going to necessarily work for some designs and some of the client's visions. But like you said as well, it's your job to make sure that you can sort of marry with each other and find that sort of harmonious, sort of level and platform to make sure everything sort of syncs together. I mean, I'm sure you must have gone through a moment where something's really very contrasting, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's about being respectful for the setting as well, and finding something that's completely personal, works with the building, but equally works with the personality of the client. Yeah. The challenge maybe more comes when we're building a property from scratch. And the client has a vision, I want a very traditional piece, I want this, I want that. So it is a conversation that's happened quite early already.
Fantastic. So, homeowners today are armed with opinions. I mean, Pinterest boards and the descent of understanding, design. I mean, has this made the process more collaborative or has it really complicated matters slightly?
I would definitely say both. Overall, I do see it actually quite as a positive, which I think today clients arrive and they're much more visually literate in that way than perhaps they were before. They've saved images. They've really thought about how they want to live and often what they like and also what they don't like. I think we talk a lot about what they like, but actually it's equally important to really understand what they don't like. And that there's a really strong starting point. And we have actually a kind of a shared visual language quite quickly, which then can make the process feel more collaborative already from day one. Because I think, especially when we work with residential, is about a collaborative process. Because at the end of the day, the client is the one that's going to live in the home. I think when it maybe becomes more complicated is Pinterest images, especially, can really be taken out of context. And a room might look really beautiful on a Pinterest one. But actually, again, back to what we were saying earlier about the building's architecture and light. Every home is unique. And so we're not here to copycat, and we can't physically copy. And that image, what makes that image look so good is often a very specific set of parameters, the architecture, the light, the proportions specific to that building, that room, and that client's kind of house and how they live. But my role, again, really is about translation. I'm not here to copy somebody else's work, but I want to understand what it is about maybe that image that the client has brought to me that speaks to them. So is it the palette? Is it the mood? What is exactly what it is? And once we get into the nitty gritty of that and understand that a little bit better, then actually we can create something that's they're going to evoke the feeling that they got from that same Pinterest, but in their own setting. So yes, it's collaborative, but it still requires a little bit of guidance.
Absolutely.
It's easy to look for Pinterest for inspiration, but actually translating that into real life is
real life. No, of course. I love what you said earlier as well. I mean, it's probably becoming a little bit more collaborative than it possibly hasn't, a couple of years ago before everything came out that made it a little bit easier, as you said, for clients to figure out what they like. And as you said, very importantly, what they don't like as well. So I think then that avoids possibly, clashes between designer and client from the get-go, automatically, because what you might see in the space and what they see in the space from the beginning might be very, very different. So I think it is quite nice that it does become that collaborative partnership between designer and client, which is great. I mean, at what stage do you find yourself gently nudging a client away from their preferences? Because I'm sure that must happen at times. I mean, and how do you do that without offending their aesthetic sensibilities? Because that's quite a difficult one sometimes,
Yes, and the word nudging is I see it more as guiding, and it's not necessarily about moving somebody away from their preference. I think clients come with residential clients really, they come with a really romantic view of how they live and how they want to live, especially when it's a new property that they've just bought or a building. They have this romantic view, I'm going to live like this, you know, and I always entertain for 20 and therefore I always need X amount of dining chairs around the table.
Yes.
But actually, what does life look like on a really dull Tuesday morning in January?
Yes, on the average. Sure.
And it's raining and you're inside. It's really about understanding the client and getting underneath their skin. And really, I spend a lot of time understanding the client's habits. And this goes also when we work with commercial clients as well. We do a lot of workshops to understand the reality, because an employee will say, oh, well, I'm in every week, 3 days a week, but actually when we do these surveys, do the workshops, the reality is quite different. Again, both ways, it's about getting under the skin, and therefore we can tease out the reality, and therefore it's about guiding. So it's less about dismissing their preferences and about understanding them. What is it about that preference that they're drawn to? Is it, the drama, the warmth, or the simplicity, whatever that is? And we can try to honor the feeling that they're trying to get out of it, the execution. So it's not about, the nudging is less about saying no and pushing you in a certain direction. And it's more about, let's find a collaborative way to achieve that, where we can have day reality that can easily translate, so they don't feel like they've compromised on anything.
Absolutely.
You come into commercial spaces, obviously those, and that's where there's so many similarities between commercial and residential as well. We don't renovate spaces in order to do them every other year. And they're huge, interior design and creating interior spaces is a huge investment. And so really they need to be able to stand the test of time. And whether that is in a commercial space that's used actually quite hard wearing versus a residential space where you really need it to grow with you, and you need to make sure that you feel that the choice that you've made today is still going to stand the test of time. And in 10 years' time, you're still going to feel like that wood floor is the choice that you made.
No, definitely. Absolutely. Was there any kind of experience you've had maybe where it was quite difficult nudging a client who really decided that they might really stuck in what they wanted? I mean, I'm just curious. Do you find that often?
Clients who are absolutely adamant this is their way, and this is how I behave, and I know I can see myself, and then you revisit the client a little bit later and you're like, I already see that that's not how you're behaving.
Are you
so
still there?
is that how you feel? Actually, yes. No, you're right. Maybe we don't quite use it. So I mean, you're always going to have that challenge, and of course it's like with anything as well, it's also about picking your battles. It's, at the end of the day, the client, it's their home, it's what they're going to be. So you can only guide them so far, but at the end of the day, if they're absolutely adamant about the decision, it's their home. So
it is their home. Yes, and that's obviously, it comes back to that relationship with the client designer relationship as well. It's always a little bit fickle sometimes at moments. Let's look a little bit at market conditions and trade and tariffs. With the rising material costs, trade restrictions, and longer lead times, how has this shifted your approach to specification and early design decisions?
Early decisions are definitely more important than they've ever been. We absolutely need to work even more upfront than we perhaps have ever even. I mean, we always need to work up front, but I would say much more awareness here. When we have a long project, we obviously do that from the beginning, but overall, we just need to make sure that we've built it in and we've ordered it in time, and then it works. It's about understanding the interdependencies of the decisions that are being made, so that we are placing them at the right time and still leave space for things to get delayed, because that's the reality. Is, in a world of global tariffs, we live in a post-Brexit world as well, where even into here in the UK and getting things out of the UK into Europe as well is equally challenging. And so just that awareness of what that additional lead time adds to it.
Absolutely.
And especially when you work with small suppliers as well, that's even more important. Large suppliers, they're driving pre-approved trucks across borders, and suppliers, we're chasing things down in customs. it adds lead time and complexity, but it also adds time and complexity for us and admin work for us as designers. We really have to be experts in global shipping as well.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah, it's also changed how I present options, I think. So I definitely prepare a primary choice. We understand the lead times, etc. But we have a really well considered backup alternative always. So if availability shifts, we're not redesigning an entire scheme. Actually, we have an option that's going to work really well. And it is an option that we're confident the clients really like. We might have already shown the option to the client and gone, here's definitely option A. Let's go with this. Let's try to get this in. But lead times, etc. This might be difficult depending on when it's coming in. And that kind of transparency and forward thinking, I think, is often really well received.
Oh, well, that's great. I think you're absolutely right. Transparency is key in communication, especially within this industry, for sure. Do clients truly understand the intricacies of global trade and tariffs, or is that a conversation most would rather avoid? I mean, as we're talking about transparency and communication with clients,
clients don't necessarily need to know every detail. They don't want to know every detail.
Yes.
I think the conversation around tariffs, everyone's very aware of it today. I think don't know that there's a reality of tariffs coming in. But perhaps I think it's more of an awareness about understanding how it directly impacts their project, less about kind of explaining global trade and more about saying, okay, this item is on X lead time. We are subject to tariffs coming in. That's going to add this extra cost. This is overall what it's going to mean for budget and timings for this project. And that kind of transparency upfront when we're making choices for things that need to come in is key. I think when we frame it in really practical terms, clients are really open to engaging with it. And again, at that point, we can also say, oh, this is not something that we're willing to choose. Let's find something. We don't think that this item is worth bringing in for that cost, or actually, yes, we're willing to wait for it. Let's do it. We're going to take a hit. I mean, I did a large project in the US as tariffs were being applied last year. And so tariffs weren't something that we had over there originally incorporated into the project, because those additional tariffs didn't exist when we kicked off the project and when we specified the items, and for a lot of the items even when we had placed our orders. But and at this point you are perhaps 18 weekly on chairs coming in, and there's not a lot we can do about it. Just really transparent with the client. This is what's actively happening. We got on a call pretty immediately with the client and said, actively, this is what's happening in the news. This is what we're understanding is potentially going to impact the project. But again, it's a changing feed. But in some cases, it definitely added, say, an extra 2 dining chairs instead of buying 8. We looked like we 10, but the tariff happened.
Difficult.
It's really hard. I like to just make the client feel like I'm here and I'm working for them. So when it's smaller pieces as well, if I can put a few meters of fabric in my suitcase and avoid lots of complication and lots of admin, I'm doing that. And small wins really makes the client feel that you're there and you're working for them. You're not taking these costs necessarily. You have an understanding of, let's take the small wins as well. We can't avoid it on large items, but if we can on small, let's try to do that.
Let's look a little bit at luxury furniture and sourcing. I mean, in luxury design, furniture can make or break a space. I mean, when sourcing luxury furniture in London, what are the markers of quality and longevity that go beyond simply brand names? I mean, if we look at that.
Yeah, it's more about construction rather than the label that's attached to it, is what I would say. It's the items, it's the elements or the items that we don't necessarily see up front. It's the frame, it's the joinery, it's how something is built. A really well-made sofa, for example, it feels solid, it feels comfortable. It's not just soft when you sit down, it's the seat pitch, it's the cushion composition. All of that is what's going to also make sure it stands the test of time.
Absolutely.
And materials are so important. What materials are going to finish and age gracefully as well are really important. I'm I got to touch and feel absolutely everything and all of that. What leather is really going to feel like it's going to pattern out really well over as well. But again, that kind of element of luxury is what it's going to feel. A leather armchair that's developed a really nice pattern. It has really high quality leather. That's going to look really beautiful in 10 years time and feel equally luxury rather than something going to crack and, then it doesn't feel luxury. So again, that material is so important. It isn't really, it's not about branding. It's about integrity. If a piece is really beautifully well made, it's going to involve with the client as well. And, it can be how it's in the space, but it is really about getting behind the scenes. And I also love speaking to suppliers and understanding what their process is, going to factory, going to where anything is made. When you're working with a carpenter, going to their joinery workshop, really seeing how things are made as well, really helps you to understand that this is a luxury piece that's being made and created, and feels that the brand is speaking with integrity, but it also allows you to recommend the item with integrity to the client as well and justify that price point that they're paying for it.
Of course, yes. I mean, with global supply chains influx, do you find that clients are more willing to wait for bespoke pieces, or are they turning to readily available alternatives to save time?
I think it comes down to what we were talking about earlier about lead times and as well. Yes, I would say most clients are willing to wait for the right piece, but only when the expectations are made clear from the very beginning. If we're proposing something 2 weeks out from installation and something last minute's come up and all of a sudden that one's like 16-week lead times, maybe less willing to wait. But if we are making decisions really early on and are aware of those kind of items, then yes, clients are willing,
to wait.
The lead times really don't necessarily matter so much to the client. If we're on a 2-year build and something has a 16-week lead time, we've built it into the timing. So they're not going to ever feel like they're waiting for it. It's back to that, really making early decisions, having that overall awareness into dependencies. But it's also about balancing where it's right to have the bespoke pieces and where it's where we don't need a bespoke piece. I think, again, this is where I really want to make sure that the client feels like I'm working for them. I always like to say I classify things in A, B, and C. So say in your most important rooms, in your living rooms and your bedrooms, that kind of space. Yes, of course, let's have beautiful bespoke pieces. But in your full guest bedroom, we may need that. And so I think it's about proposing bespoke pieces in spaces that are important, the most important to the client. And so then they're going to be willing to wait for it. Whereas if we're proposing a bespoke piece in the fourth guest bedroom,
absolutely, some place you don't see it every day or not interacting with it every day. No, absolutely. Yes, we're not going to see it where a door is going to be closed. No, for sure. No.
And again, having that kind of open conversation with the client in terms of importance is key.
Let's have a look a little bit at technology and AI. We can't really get away from these conversations. I think they're going to keep coming as we go. But AI can generate, concepts in minutes now. But do you view it as a helpful tool for visual communication, or is it a shortcut that risks stifling true design thinking?
I view it as a tool rather than a replacement of the design process. It can be incredibly useful for visual communication. It can be a quick way of helping clients understand a mood or a layout or the direction we're heading in. And so it can definitely help speed up the conversations that we're having with clients, and also potentially the confidence that it gives in the certain look that we're going for. Thinking still has to come first. A successful interior isn't just about the image. It's everything that goes behind it. So it's about understanding the architecture, the light, proportions, the budget, like we've talked about so much today, how someone's going to live day to day in the property, all of those things, and understanding how all of those things interact
Sure.
AI can't help us generate that.
Mm.
They can't help us
Sure.
get into of that. They can help generate visuals, but it can't do those judgments for us. So
Can't do them.
I
Sure.
don't see it as stifling creativity. It's definitely a tool, but we have to do the human thinking alongside it.
Absolutely.
It becomes stifling when the human thinking isn't done for it. It's when someone's feeding into AI and thinking that it can do it for you. That's
Sure.
when it's not. But if we're doing all of that creative thinking and we're just using it as a tool and feed, it takes a lot of human thought to feed what's needed in order for a really correct, like amazing AI image to be generated. So there's so much human creativity actually often behind an AI generated image. So it's a tool that we use hand in hand. It's a tool that's here to stay in the industry. We need to find ways to evolve with it.
Mm. Mm. No, absolutely. I think that actually comes down to my second question. I think you sort of maybe answered it already. But I mean, what's the one thing AI generated interiors still don't quite get right about how people actually live in a space? I think you've already sort of touched on it already, that there is that human touch that, we can't get away from, that AI cannot generate. For the client, and I feel as well, as you mentioned, it's a picture. It can give you an idea of what the space could look like, but it's not going to be able to build that space. It's not going to, as you mentioned as well, that creativity prior to that, all the backward thinking, all the work that goes into it from the start, isn't there. So, I mean, is there one thing that you think it's still not getting quite right?
Yeah, I mean, it's great, and feeding certain elements into AI, and I've only dabbled a little bit with image creation through AI, but I think there's also a huge amount of experts out there that actually create really beautiful images using other 3D rendering tools, and also there's a lot for hand sketching and hand rendering. So I think all of those kind of quick elements, AI isn't doing that for us. There's still, like I said, there's still such a human element behind it.
Yes.
So I think we will evolve with it, and we technology is moving, and we have to evolve.
Yes.
I'm talking a lot about image creation, but actually there's so much that AI can do to help drive some of the admin time as well. That's also not something to forget, that we're so focused on the AI images that AI can generate, but actually we can really see helpful tools is perhaps more in the back office side of things.
Yes.
That's going to help us to be more present with the client and spend more time on that creative behind it. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's have a look a little bit at perspective on the industry. I mean, looking at today's design industry, I mean, would you say it's becoming more thoughtful, or is it simply reacting to trends and algorithms in an endless cycle? Because as you see, there's so many things that's happening. Everyone's got, there's so much access to so much stuff at the moment as well. I think there's a lot more, clients are a lot more, can access a lot more things as well as obviously with designers and things. And there's so many trends and algorithms consistently all the time. And, how do you feel about the design industry today?
That's very true. And I think we are also in such an image-led world today. Media, digitally, image, everything is coming at us in so many different directions. I definitely think it is forcing us to be more thoughtful and to kind of take that. It's not about digital detox or anything like that. It's about being more thoughtful where you are looking for inspiration as well. I mean, I am a huge fan of books, and and print editorial as well. Yeah, and kind of again, and kind of like we talked about materials, physically holding things, and that forces you to be more thoughtful, because it takes more time to look, and you actually have to digest those images longer. When you're just scrolling on your phone or on whatever device you're using, you're digesting images so quickly. So actually, what you're not actually digesting it. So I definitely think by being in a more digital world, that is forcing us to be more thoughtful as well. And I also think there's the image digestion kind of side of things. And then I also think we are much more aware of sustainability and longevity as well. So again, it's really forcing us to be more thoughtful, to think more longer term, perhaps. And so again, like we were talking about an armchair and the longevity of an armchair, whatever that is, we are really, okay, how can this stand the test of time? We're not going to do this twice. We're not going to, you know, and I think, again, that's really forcing us to be much more thoughtful, to really understand how a space can evolve with residential, with a family over time. So space is actually going to function equally well now as in 10, 15, 20 years time. That crave a huge moment of thoughtfulness and just kind of taking a moment to pause, which I think we've always done, but things are moving so quickly. So taking that moment now and pausing and saying, and communicating and articulating that that's the thoughtfulness that we have done to land the project.
So just, you know, looking at a little bit of our closing remarks, you know, with just wrapping up our conversation, which has been fantastic. I mean, London remains one of the world's luxury furniture hubs. I mean, when engaging with large scale destinations like FCI London, as an example, I mean, what truly helps designers to stay inspired and avoid being overwhelmed by the, you know, sheer variety of choice? As we talked about all the variety of choice digitally, I mean, let's look at, you know, large scale destinations, you know, of luxury furniture hubs that you also, you know, avoid feeling overwhelmed by the massive amount of choice.
I think preparation is key for me. It's when, you know, it's easy to feel, if you're just walking in somewhere and you don't know what you're looking for, it is going to feel overwhelming because there is just so much choice.
Too much.
Which, you know, it's amazing that today we have all this choice. But preparing, you know, what is it actually that I'm sourcing today? What is it that you're looking, and actually not going in somewhere and trying to do a whole home in one go. So I think that's also key, is to say, okay, today, even though you think obviously about the home as a whole, and you have that red thread that carries, that should carry all the way through. But actually, once it comes down to sourcing and specifying each room, it's really about taking that room. Okay, what am I sourcing for today? Okay, what's my preparation? What's my list? And I think that's what helps you feel less overwhelmed when you go into large spaces. It's being prepared and knowing what therefore go in, and then being prepared, but also letting yourself be drawn by inspiration by other things that you see. So no matter how prepared you are, you can go in and be like, yes, I found exactly this is things that I was looking at my list, but actually, oh my God, I'm so inspired by what I saw here. It's taken me in a slightly direction. Where actually in the back of my mind, I always have something else over here. You know, every time I'm going to kind of furniture showrooms or fabric showrooms or whatever it is, I'm prepared. I have what I'm looking for, but equally, I always end up with something I wasn't looking for.
Yes, where inspiration takes you.
By the space, that's also because you're prepared and you're looking at things in a very focused way as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. No. Please go ahead.
It's about, you know, it's about clarity and that preparation. I think, you know, it's in everything we do. So
yeah. But thank you so much, Charlotte, for sharing your insights and, you know, your thoughtful approach to creating your interiors. You know, it's been absolutely wonderful hearing, you know, how you balance everything, and it's been a wonderful conversation. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it, and I'm sure all of our lovely listeners and viewers have really enjoyed this discussion and can take quite a few things away from them. So to all our listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us again on FCI London podcast. Keep following, keep designing, and join us again as we continue our conversations with London's most influential luxury designers. And again, thank you so much, Charlotte. It's been an absolute pleasure.